A few months ago, we told you investigators in a decade-old Alabama murder case were asking people in Hampton Roads for help. The remains of a young girl were found in a wooded area behind a trailer. No one knew who she was or how she got there. Now investigators know her name.
On January 28, 2012, a gruesome discovery was made in Opelika, Alabama. The remains of a young child were found in the backyard of a mobile home, with no explanation as to how they ended up there. For decades, the identity of the child remained a mystery, and the case went cold. But just when all hope seemed lost, advanced DNA technology uncovered a shocking family connection that had been hidden for years. What happened to this innocent child? How did she end up buried in the backyard? Welcome back to the Cold Case Files, where we cover the notorious cold cases of history. Today we'll delve into the mysterious case of the 6-year-old baby Jane Doe that was finally solved in 2023. But first, if you are new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, please consider clicking the subscribe button, as it helps us and motivates us to create more content for you. So without further ado, let's dive right into the mystery. Opelika is a city in the eastern part of the U.S. state of Alabama. It is located in Lee County and has a population of approximately 30,000 people. The city is known for a historic downtown area, which features a variety of restaurants, shops, and cultural attractions. Opelika is also home to several parks and recreational areas, including the Chewacla State Park and the Salgahatchee Lake Wildlife Refuge. Additionally, the city has a strong economy with a number of industries including healthcare, education, and manufacturing. January 28, 2012, it was a peaceful Saturday morning in Opelika, Alabama, when the police department received a call that would shake a community to its core. At 10:47 a.m., the phone rang out with an urgent report from a resident of a mobile home community on Hurst Street. The caller's voice was shaky and filled with fear as she explained that a human skull had been found outside her house. The Opelika police officers sprang into action, their vehicle speeding towards the scene of the chilling discovery. When they arrived, they were met by a woman named Yvonne Johnson, 43 years old, who had made the frantic call. She led them to the back of her mobile home, where her son had discovered the skull just hours earlier. As the officers approached, they could see the small, child-sized skull lying on the ground in plain sight, that it had not been there the day before, and its sudden appearance of such a disturbing and macabre object left them with more questions than answers. As they began their investigation, the officers couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Questions raced through the officers' minds. Whose skull was it? How did it get there? And what happened to the child? The discovery of the skull sent shockwaves through the community, as residents grappled with the horrifying realization that a child's remains had been found on their doorstep. The investigation into the skull's origin would be a long and difficult journey. As the officers surveyed the area where the skull had been discovered, their eyes scanned the trees in the distance, wondering if there could be more clues hidden within the shadows. The thought of a child's remains being scattered in the woods was too disturbing to bear, and they were determined to find out the evidence that could bring them closer to the truth. As the sun set on the second day of searching, the detectives knew they had a long road ahead of them, but they were determined to keep going until they found all the answers they were looking for. After a thorough search, however, nothing was found. It wasn't until 2 days later that the detectives finally caught something. The police officers' initial shock at discovering a child's skull was only amplified when they uncovered more skeletal remains just a few feet into the tree line behind the trailer. As they carefully sifted through the underbrush, their trained eyes picked up on something else: a child's pink shirt and a bundle of curly hair. The officers couldn't help but be saddened as they realized that they were dealing with the remains of a young girl. The fact that her hair was still styled in cornrows was a stark reminder of the girl's life before her untimely death. The officers knew they had a tough case ahead of them, but they were determined to do everything in their power to bring justice to this little girl. The FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia, was the next stop for the skeletal remains of the young girl discovered in Opelika, Alabama. After thorough examination, it was determined that the remains belonged to a black girl between the ages of 4 and 7. But the shocking discoveries did not end there. The little girl had suffered a horrific fate at the hands of a heinous killer. An autopsy revealed that she had sustained over 15 fractures to her skull, arms, legs, shoulders, and ribs, all caused by blunt force trauma. The injuries were so severe that they showed signs of healing, indicating that they had occurred prior to her death. This led investigators to believe that the little girl had endured prolonged physical abuse, which ultimately led to her tragic death. To make matters worse, the medical examiner also concluded that the young girl may have been malnourished and blind in her left eye due to a fractured eye socket. The details of this little girl's life and death are truly heartbreaking. The discovery of the little girl's remains shook the Opelika community. The police officers were determined to find out who she was and what happened to her. With no identification to go on, they gave her a name that would forever be etched into their memories, Opelika Baby, as they searched for clues to her identity and her killer. The investigation into her identity began in earnest, but the road ahead was tough. The remains were so badly degraded that developing a DNA profile proved to be impossible. The detectives turned to more traditional methods, scouring through thousands of school and birth records in search of a missing child around the same age as Opelika Baby. However, their efforts were in vain, and the mystery of her identity remained unsolved. As the years went by, Opelika Baby became a symbol of the community's pain and loss. She would have been nameless, but she was not forgotten. Despite their best efforts, no one came forward to identify her or provide any useful information about her death. It wasn't until 2016 that there was a glimmer of hope when a forensic artist from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children brought her to life. He was able to create sketches of what the young girl might have looked like before her death. The sketches showed her wearing the pink shirt with heart-shaped buttons similar to the clothing found near her remains. The artist's rendering was a poignant reminder that this young girl had been alive, with a personality and a story of her own. The sketches were released to the public, with the hope that someone, somewhere, would recognize her and bring answers to a long-standing mystery and provide a much-needed breakthrough in the case. For weeks, investigators had been struggling to piece together the puzzle of the young girl's identity, until a crucial piece of information surfaced in 2016. But a former Bible school teacher from the Greater Peace Baptist Church, located less than 15 minutes from where the remains were found, proved to be the missing link in this mysterious case.
I have a picture in my phone and I just look at it all the time. But I haven't forgotten her, and I won't forget her. I hope and pray it be soon, because somebody's living a bad life.
The teacher's revelation was nothing short of astonishing. She had seen a young black girl in 2011 who looked eerily similar to the sketches that had been released just weeks before. This information was a major breakthrough for investigators, who immediately began following up on this lead. While there was still much work to be done, the possibility of finally solving the cold case was now within their reach. With renewed determination and a renewed sense of hope, the investigation into the death of Opelika Baby continued. The teacher's recollection of the young girl was shocking. She spoke of her as a child who seemed shy and withdrawn, unable to connect with other children in the way that most do. It was as if she existed in her own little world, a solitary figure in an ocean of other kids. The teacher couldn't remember the girl's name, but the image of her lingered in her mind like a sad, silent melody. It was clear that this child had been alone and vulnerable, with no one to protect her or speak up for her. And now, years later, her fate remained a mystery. The detectives' pursuit of baby Jane Doe's identity led them to the Greater Peace Baptist Church, where they meticulously combed through old photographs in search of any potential leads. After poring over countless images, they finally stumbled upon a picture of a young girl who perfectly matched the description provided by the former Bible school teacher. Despite an obvious eye abnormality, which corroborated with their previous findings, the detectives were confident that this was baby Jane Doe. With each piece of evidence, the mystery was slowly unraveling. As the investigation into baby Jane Doe's tragic death continued, detectives were determined to leave no stone unturned. They knew that every piece of evidence could potentially lead them closer to solving the case. And that's why they were so excited to get their hands on the photograph taken at the Greater Baptist Church. However, the photos weren't in the best condition, and they were a bit blurry and difficult to decipher. But that didn't deter the investigators. They knew that with the right tools, they could uncover even the smallest of clues. Using special software, they were able to enhance the photos, bringing baby Jane Doe's image into sharp focus. And with that clarity came a new way. The University of South Florida. The detectives employed the university's cutting-edge isotope testing procedure, a technique that could analyze the very building blocks of the remains. By examining the number and type of isotopes present in the sample, they could gain a better understanding of the remains' age, origin, and composition. It was an innovative approach that could provide crucial information in investigation, and for the detectives, it was yet another step closer to unlocking the mystery of baby Jane Doe's tragic death. The test revealed that the young girl had a high amount of lead in her system, suggesting that she may have been raised in Alabama or somewhere in the southeast. This finding was not unusual, as everyone has a certain amount of lead in their system, depending on where they were raised and the type of drinking water they consumed. For several long months, the case of the unidentified young girl weighed heavily on the shoulders of the detectives, working tirelessly to bring her to justice. But despite the lack of leads and the dead ends, they refused to give up. This case had become more than just a job to them. It had become a mission and a quest to shine a light on the dark cloud that hung over their community. They knew that solving this mystery would bring not just closure, but a sense of fulfillment to everyone involved. The Opelika Police Department had been grappling with the case of baby Jane Doe for years, with no solid leads to go on. But in January 2022, they refused to let the case go cold and decided to partner with the cutting-edge Othram Laboratories for advanced DNA testing. Previous attempts to extract a DNA profile from the skeletal remains had been unsuccessful, but the experts at Othram believed that the advances in forensic science could make it possible. The remains presented a difficult challenge, but the team was determined to create a profile that could lead to a breakthrough in the case. It's not easy to generate a genetic profile from skeletal remains, especially the kind of profile that you need to do genealogy, said Christian Middleman, the chief development officer at Othram Labs. The community held their breath as they awaited the results of the groundbreaking DNA testing. In a remarkable breakthrough, Othram Labs was able to extract DNA from the skeletal remains of the unidentified child. With the help of Astra Labs, they were able to extract DNA from the scalp and hair. This was a major accomplishment, as skeletal remains are often difficult to extract viable DNA from. Using genetic sequencing technology, Othram built a comprehensive genetic profile for the child. The profile was then handed over to Dr. Barbara Ray Venter, a renowned genealogist who had previously helped identify the notorious Golden State Killer in California. Dr. Ray Venter turned to public DNA databases to help identify any possible relatives of the slain girl. It was a thrilling moment for investigators, who finally had a new lead to follow in their quest to solve the case. The case of baby Jane Doe had been a puzzle for over a decade, but finally, in October of 2022, the father of the slain child was identified as 50-year-old Lamar Vickerstaff Jr., who had been born and raised in Opelika, Alabama, just like the victim. However, the twists and turns did not end there. Lamar had an extensive career in the U.S. Navy, which took him to several places across the country, including Norfolk, Virginia, Honolulu, Hawaii, and Jacksonville, Florida. It was a challenging task to trace him down, but the Opelika detectives were determined to solve the case once and for all. In December 2022, they finally managed to track down Lamar, who was currently stationed at Naval Station Mayport in Jacksonville, Florida. The detectives broke the heartbreaking news of his daughter's death to him. However, he was not forthcoming with any information about the identity of baby Jane Doe or her mother. The detectives then turned to Lamar's wife, Ruth Senyata Vickerstaff, 53 years old, who had been married to him since May of 2006. However, even she was unaware of the victim's identity or her mother's whereabouts. The case was far from solved, and detectives had to keep digging for more information. The twists and turns in this case were unlike anything the community had seen before. It was a rollercoaster ride of emotions for everyone involved. However, the detectives remained determined to solve the case and bring closure to baby Jane Doe's family. It was a testament to their perseverance that they were able to identify the father, but the mystery of the victim's mother and identity still remained unsolved. Genealogist Dr. Barbara Ray Venter went back to the family tree and had identified a possible match for the girl's biological mother, Sherry Wiggins. Using their expertise and knowledge of the public DNA databases, the detectives were able to trace Sherry Wiggins to Maryland, where she currently resides. It was December of 2022 that the detectives finally met with Sherry and confirmed her as the biological mother of Jane Doe. Sherry Wiggins, who hails from Norfolk, Virginia, disclosed that she gave birth to a baby girl named Amore Wiggins on January 1, 2006. The news of the discovery sent shockwaves throughout the community as people grappled with the tragic reality of Jane Doe's fate. As the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that the circumstances surrounding Jane Doe's death were far from over. But with the discovery of Sherry Wiggins as Jane Doe's biological mother, it was clear that the pieces of the puzzle were slowly but surely falling into place. For the first time in over a decade, Jane Doe had a name: Amore Wiggins. Sherry Wiggins, 37 years old, the biological mother of Amore, spoke to investigators and revealed some shocking details about her relationship with Lamar Vickerstaff Jr., Amore's father.
Now we got a baby and we're not even married. It was just like he was just upset and bothered from there. And when he started shoving me, I was like, I'm going to figure something out.
According to Sherry, Lamar, a seasoned military man in the mid-30s, was serving in the Navy when they met, and she was only 20 years old. Despite the age difference, they fell in love, and Sherry gave birth to Amore on January 1, 2006. Sherry Wiggins' eyes sparkled as she recounted the day she brought her little bundle of joy into the world. Her heart swelled with love as she held her precious Amore in her arms. Amore was not just a beautiful baby, but also smart and special, just like her name suggested. And in Sherry's eyes, she was the embodiment of pure love. Hence the name Amore, which means love in Spanish. The arrival of little Amore brought a ray of sunshine into Sherry's life, but it also brought a storm of disapproval from Lamar's relatives. They disapproved of their relationship from the very start, and when the news of a child came along, they were even more disappointed. The tension between Lamar's family and Sherry continued to grow until she felt like she had no other choice but to gather up her precious bundle of joy and move out of the apartment she shared with Lamar. It was a difficult decision, but she knew it was the right thing to do for the sake of her daughter's well-being. And so, in the year 2006, Sherry set out on a journey of single parenthood, facing the challenges ahead with love, courage, and determination. The weight of being a single mother started to take its toll on Sherry, but she remained strong for her beloved Amore. However, things took a turn for the worse when Lamar moved on with his life with another woman. Sherry felt abandoned and betrayed, but she was determined to fight for her daughter's well-being. With a heavy heart, she took Lamar to court to at least get child support for Amore. She had hoped for justice, but things didn't go as planned. Despite the challenges and the legal battle that left her emotionally drained and financially struggling, Sherry did her best to raise Amore and provide her with a loving home.
It makes sense for her to be somewhere more stable, a man of honor, and with a job like that, things did look better for him.
You felt like Amore would have a better life with her dad and his wife, Ruth.
Yes.
At that point in time, until you could get what you were going through together.
Yes. Okay. And they both had agreed upon that as well.
Sometimes the past can come back to haunt us, and unfortunately for Sherry Wiggins, her past mistakes proved to be her downfall. She had made some bad decisions and found herself on the wrong side of the law. But little did she know, her missteps would lead to the ultimate heartbreak.
I can't say the year, but I know the event. He was in Hawaii. And I had reached out and he was like, why the hell are you calling my phone? I'm not making no special arrangements to let you see a child. You don't care about her. She's okay over here with us.
Losing custody of her beloved daughter, Amore, the court system deemed her unstable and decided that Amore would be better off in the care of her father, Lamar. It was a crushing blow for Sherry, but she refused to give up on her daughter. Amidst the turmoil of legal troubles and custody battles, Amore was caught in the middle. The court had made its decision. She would be in the care of her father Lamar and his wife Ruth. Sherry's heart ached as she watched her precious daughter leave, but she knew deep down that it was for the best. Lamar's stable life and supportive family would provide the environment that Amore needed to thrive. However, Sherry was determined to remain a presence in her daughter's life, even if it meant occasional visits to Lamar's residence. As if the distance between them was not enough, fate dealt another cruel blow to Sherry.
Honestly felt I felt like once they made me feel so bad and I kept trying and the doors kept being closed, I felt like the least I could do was live out my financial obligation. And that's why I never stopped. And I always felt like I knew that one day I could tell her, like, I never gave up on you. All I could do was take care of you. So, that's what I did. And that's all. If I couldn't do anything else because of how things were, I pride myself on supporting my child financially. And I also pride myself on reaching out constantly and never giving up.
Lamar was transferred to Hawaii, taking his family with him. Amore was now thousands of miles away from her mother, and Sherry's heart sank at the thought of being separated from her precious child. She tried to reach out to Lamar, hoping to work out a plan to visit her daughter, but his response was cold and callous. "Why the hell are you calling me on the phone? I'm making no special arrangements for you to see your child," he said, his words dripping with disdain. "You don't care about her, and she's okay here with us." The hurt and the rejection Sherry felt was palpable, and it seemed like the odds were stacked against her in every way possible. Sherry's heart was heavy with the weight of her longing to see her daughter once again. She had tried every legal avenue available to her, appearing in court numerous times in an effort to regain custody of her precious Amore and to reestablish a connection with her. But the universe seemed to be conspiring against her, and every appeal she made fell on deaf ears. In 2013, she received crushing news that her efforts had been exhausted, and that the only thing that she could do to maintain a link to her beloved child was to continue paying the child support that had been mandated years before. Sherry hoped that one day, when Amore turned 18, they could reconnect and rebuild the bond that had been broken by distances and circumstances. She never imagined that her daughter was being influenced against her by Ruth and Lamar Vickerstaff, but deep down, she knew something was amiss. But now, even seeing her daughter again was just an unfulfilling dream for her. Detectives started digging into the records of schools and clinics located in the states where Lamar and Ruth had lived, hoping to find a trace of the missing girl. What they uncovered was a disturbing revelation. There was no record of Amore ever attending school or receiving any medical care typical for a child her age. This piece of information only fueled their suspicion that the Vickerstaffs were involved in Amore's disappearance and possible demise. The investigation was far from over, but one thing was certain. The couple were something serious about Amore's death. The long-awaited arrest of Lamar and Ruth Vickerstaff was over on January 17, 2023, in Jacksonville, Florida. The couple had been charged in connection with the death of their adopted daughter, Amore. Lamar Vickerstaff has been charged with felony murder, while Ruth Vickerstaff has been charged with failure to report a missing child. The couple is now behind bars, awaiting extradition to Lee County, where they will face justice for the crimes they have allegedly committed. The investigation is ongoing, and detectives are urging anyone with information about the couple's relationship with Amore or her time in Opelika to come forward. The search for justice in the heartbreaking case of baby Jane has finally come to an end, thanks to the unwavering dedication of Opelika Police Department. Police Chief John McEachern was moved to tears as he spoke of the tireless efforts put forth by his team in the pursuit of justice for the little girl whose name was unknown for years. Sergeant Alfred White, who worked on the case for 6 years, echoed the sentiment that the team never gave up, especially since this was a child's murder. And their hard work paid off. Thanks to the evidence provided by Sherry Wiggins, the father Lamar Vickerstaff and his wife Ruth were arrested in Florida last week. Lamar faces a charge of felony murder, while Ruth is charged with failure to report a missing child. The couple was extradited back to Opelika, Alabama, where they were booked into Lee County Jail. The Opelika Police Department expressed gratitude to Sherry Wiggins and the Baltimore County Police Department for their assistance in bringing justice for baby Jane. While the details of this heartbreaking case may be difficult to digest, we can all take comfort in knowing that the individuals responsible for this heinous crime have been brought to justice.
If I could do it all over again, I hold you so tight. Never in a million years did I think you wouldn't be loved right. I didn't want you to have it hard, so I let your tiny hand go. Imagining you would be playing in a big backyard.
This case shows how advanced DNA technology can solve such cases that seem impossible to find a closure. What are your thoughts on this case? Share your opinions in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe, keep your eyes peeled for the next mystery to unfold.